All right, welcome to Pro Football First 50 Years, where we take the past and we bring it back to life. I'm strictly talking the first 50 years here, 1920 to 1970. And especially if you're going to go back in time and check out a game from like the 1920s or the 30s. I mean, yeah, you can go online, find a box score, who won, who lost, who scored a touchdown, how far a field goal was that someone kicked, where the game was played at, what the attendance was. You might find starting lineups for each team. Exactly what happened during the game. Well, thanks to old newspaper articles, we get to take a little bit of a deeper dive into each and every game during the first 50 years of professional football. Little news flash here for you. Ain't no fancy videos or nothing like that here. All there is you and me for the next 30 to 60 minutes. So if that's all right with you, let's get it on. And today's game, exhibition game, final one for each of these two teams of the 1959 season. The Chicago Bears take on the Cleveland Browns at Cleveland Stadium, September 19th, 1959. Ooh. Both these teams would wind up in second place in their respective divisions. The Bears would fall one game short of the division title. They would be 8-4. Colts would finish 9-3. Doink. Bye. The Browns would finish 7-5. They would be tied with the Eagles for second place in the Eastern Division, but they would be 3 games out of the New York Giants. Both had winning seasons, obviously, both in second place, but how they got there, both teams were the exact opposite of how they got there. Let's whip up the Cleveland Browns here first. Well, I'll show you. I mean, exact opposite. Is this I think I got I got the wrong team here. Well, it don't matter. Could have been the Bears. I said, let's start off with the Browns. Now, the Browns, you'll notice here, each team played 6 preseason games. There were a couple teams that actually played, for the love of God, played a couple of other teams, not the Browns or the Bears, but actually played 7 preseason games during the 59. I mean, they played 7 preseason games and 12 regular season. I mean, they played almost as many preseason games as they did regular season. It's just crazy, absolutely crazy. But we'll notice here with the Browns, they were 2. Spoiler alert, right? This wound up being a very good, very entertaining game, might I say. But the Browns would win this one 33-31. But the Browns were only 2-4 in exhibition. Now it goes both ways, right? I mean, if it's a game, if you want to win the game, right? But if you don't win the game, it's only exhibition. It's not the end of the world, right? So they finished 2-4, and they were going into this final game here. They were 1-4. Oh, but then, once the regular season started, after 8 weeks, they were 6-2. They were tied with the Giants for first place, so it was anybody's. And even the Eagles were right there at that particular point. I believe the Eagles had 3 losses, so the Eagles were 5-3. The Giants were 6-2. The Browns were 6-2. You had a 3-way race for first place of the Eastern Division. But you'll notice right here, they lost 2 real tough games, right? They lost 21-20 to the Steelers, and they lost 21-20 to the 49ers. Then, pretty much, their only hope was they were going to have to, in these final 2 games, they were going to have to win the final 2 games, which you see here they didn't do. And they were going to have to hope that the Giants lost their final 2 games of this season, which they didn't do, because you see that the Giants blew them out 48-7. Now, this possibly, I'm just saying possibly, I didn't look through every game, but in this one particular season, Vince Lombardi's biggest loss, regular season loss, might have been in this 59 season. He lost by 39 points to the Rams. I don't know if he lost by 39 points to any other team the rest of his coaching career. And right here, Paul Brown lost by 41 points to the Giants. Now, as far as coaching the Browns, I don't know if he lost by 41 during the regular season to anybody. He lost by 45 in the championship game to the Lions. He lost 59-14. That was the championship game. That wasn't during the regular season, but so the Browns, want to tie for second place, winning record, but if you look at their roster, my goodness, they had some players, so you figure they always had to, figuring to be like, either not the best team, but first or second, in the division. They're always a perennial powerhouse, especially with Paul Brown and Jim Brown. But you got, of course, Paul Brown's the coach. He's in the Hall of Fame. You got Jim Brown. He's in the Hall of Fame. You got Willie Davis, who wound up being in the Hall of Fame with the Green Bay Packers. So that's 3 Hall of Famers. You got Lou Groza on the offensive line. That's 4 Hall of Famers. And you got Gene Hickerson. He's on the offense. That's 5 Hall of Famers. Mike McCormick, offensive line. That's 6 Hall of Famers. Bobby Mitchell, running back. 7 Hall of Famers. Chuck Noll, you know who he is, right? The coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. 8 Hall of Famers. Is that it? I think it might be about it. Just a plethora of Hall of Famers. A lot of them obviously were on the offense, but they had a very good defense as well, too. Let's go over to the Bears. And the Bears were the exact opposite, although both teams wound up in second place. The Bears, this would be their only loss of the exhibition. They won their first 5 games, and they were just straight up just killing people. Look at 54-17. Then they beat the Redskins 52-14. Then they killed my Giants 18-6. My Giants scored 6 points again. Straight up just killing people. Then they lost this one tough game here. So they were 5-0 at one point. And we'll show you their roster. It's like totally different, than the Browns. All their Hall of Famers were on the offensive side. For the most part, you got Caceres and Willie Gallimore, but for the most part, a lot of the big heavy hitters for the Bears were on their defensive side of the ball. But the Bears were 6-1. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. 5-1 in preseason. The Browns were 2-4. The Browns started off 6-2. If you include this game here, the Bears lost 5 out of 6 games in one stretch. One of them was this preseason game. But if you want to eliminate the preseason, they actually started off, they lost 4 of their first 5 regular season games. Now, if you want to almost totally eliminate yourself from any championship conversation, you lose for one of your first 5 games. And it's almost going to totally eliminate you from any playoff contention or championship or, contention. Even though they won their final 7 games, they still wind up 1 game short because they finished 8-4. Colts finished 9-3. But you see how they were exact opposite. The Browns were 2-4 in exhibition. The Bears were 5-1. The Browns started 6-2 during the regular season. The Bears started 1-4. And they were the Browns were 6-2 in first place, tied for first place. The Bears were 1-4. They were tied for last place. The Browns lost 3 of their final 4 to finish 7-5. The Bears won their final 7 to finish 8-4. I think the Colts won their final 5 games or so. They had a kind of hope that the Colts would stumble on one of their final, the final weeks of the season. They just didn't do it. They just kept winning. The Bears kept winning. The Colts kept winning, and the Colts wind up with a record of 9-3, and the Bears are a record of 8-4. But so if you look at their roster, you're like who is on their offense? It's like, how do they score any points? But you look at their defense, right? You got Erich Barnes, who wound up playing in quite a few championship games with the Giants. Actually, and Erich Barnes would actually be on the Browns at one point in time too. But then, of course, you got Doug Atkins. Zeke Bradkowski would actually wind up being a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. He would be on their Super Bowl teams. J.C. Caroline, I believe he's the one that he's the one that intercepted a pass in the end zone at the end of the 63 championship game. But you got Rick Caceres, okay, and Joe Fortunato, the linebacker. Then you got Willie Gallimore. But then you got Bill George, linebacker. Very young Chuck Howley, the MVP of Super Bowl, the Blunder Bowl, Super Bowl V. Each team had like 87 turnovers in that game. Chuck Howley, I believe, had 2 interceptions, and he was one of the rare, I don't know if it's happened since. He was actually an MVP, a defensive MVP on a losing team. The Cowboys lost, so I was very happy about that one. Let's see who else we got. Richie Pettibone, right? You know, I mean, he was actually a quarterback. He was drafted. It was in the second round. He was the second round pick. You look down there, Richie Pettibone, quarterback from Tulane, was it? Tulane. So he was a quarterback, and for crying out loud, they made him into like a cornerback. He was a quarterback, and they turned him into a cornerback. And a very successful career, coaching-wise too. So, I mean, you look at it like, you know, the Bears' strength was on their defensive side. The Browns' strength was on their offensive side. But, you know, and of course they had, you know, George Halas, very, very good coach. All right, so this game was played at Cleveland Stadium. Ah, yes, Cleveland Stadium, or some people say maybe the mistake by the lake. I just call it, stadiums like that just touch my heart. It has the 3 things going for it. It was in the weather elements, meaning no stupid ass dome stadium. It was on grass, right? And it was dome, no dome. It was in the weather elements, and it was in on the grass, meaning the weather. I mean, it was, oh my God, it got cold there. Holy cow. Now, not so much like this game here, but the Cleveland Rams, their final game ever was a 1945 championship game, and that game was freaking cold. Holy cow, was that. The following season, they moved to Los Angeles. That game was cold, my God. But I just love that. That's football to me. That's football. This stuff they got nowadays with artificial turf, these dome stadiums. Anyway. Let's pull up Wikipedia. What's they got to say about Cleveland Stadium? There we go. All right. Cleveland Stadium, commonly known as Municipal Stadium or Cleveland Municipal Stadium, multi-purpose stadium in Cleveland, Ohio. It was one of the early multi-purpose stadiums built to accommodate both baseball and football. Stadium opened in 1931 and is best known as a longtime home of the Cleveland Indians from 32 to 33, and again from 37 to 93. All right, and the Cleveland Browns of the NFL, obviously also from 46 to 95, but in 1946 to 49, they weren't in the NFL. They were an American, All-American Football Conference. And in 1995, Bill Belichick was actually the coach of the Browns that year. They did not have a good season, and when they wound up moving to Baltimore, or Odell, can't stand that guy. Belichick, I believe that was his final year coaching the Browns. He didn't make it to Baltimore. In addition, they were hosting other teams, other sports and concerts. I mean, all kinds of. I mean, if you look at it, it's like the players from like baseball who played there, the players from football who played there over the years. My goodness. Let's see. The stadium hosted 3 All-American Football Conference championship games, 6 NFL championship games, served as one of the host venues of the 48 and 54 World Series, a 4-time host of the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, and the site of the original Dog Pound, Red Right 88, and The Drive. Neither one was very good for the Browns. Red Right 88, it was the 80 championship game. They lost to the Raiders. And, of course, The Drive, the 86 championship game when they lost to John Elway and the Broncos. Though most of its tenure as a baseball facility, the stadium was the largest in the Major League Baseball by seating capacity, seating over 78,000 initially and over 74,000 in its final years. It was superseded by the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum from 58 to 61 because the Dodgers, after 57, them and the Giants, they moved to the West Coast. So the Dodgers were in the Memorial Coliseum for 4 years, 58 to 61, and they were at times they had over 90,000 people there for a freaking baseball game. Well, they were in the 59. Actually, the year we're talking about here, the Dodgers were in the World Series, and they had like over 90. Games 3, 4, and 5 of the World Series, the 59 World Series, was at the Coliseum, Memorial Coliseum. Over 90,000 people, all 3 games. Unfreaking. You see pictures of it, it's just like a sea of people. It's unbelievable. Let's see. For football, the stadium seated approximately 80,000 people, ranking as one of the largest seating capacities in the NFL. Former Browns owner Art Modell took over control of the stadium from the city in the 70s. And while his organization made improvements to the facilities, it continued to decline. Unfortunately, just the way it is. And sometimes it really, really, really just gets ugly. I mean, I don't know. So I don't. I just can't stand Art Modell because I don't know. It seems like he was one of the reasons why they took the Browns out of Cleveland, and he also was possibly one of the reasons why Paul Brown wound up leaving the Browns, because I just can't stand Art Modell. But so I don't know exactly what wound up happening, obviously. But I kind of wondered how far Cleveland tried to keep him there, and were they able to try to maybe upgrade the stadium? Did they try to get a different site for football facilities? Who knows? But obviously, in 1995, Modell announced his intentions to move the team to Baltimore, citing the state of the Cleveland Stadium as a major factor. So very, very sad. Very, very sad. What we got here? The impetus of Cleveland Stadium came from city manager William R. Hopkins, Cleveland Indians president Ernest Bernard, and real estate magnate and future Indians president Alva Bradley. If you hear anything snoring, that's my dog Randy. He's at my feet, so keep it down. He's trying to sleep. He says that we have, however, incorrectly stated that it was built in a failed bid to attract the 32 Summer Olympics, which had been awarded to Los Angeles. Long before ground was broken on the stadium, another common misconception is that Cleveland Stadium was a work progress administration project. Whatever. Here we go. Cleveland Stadium under construction. I mean, look at just big and massive and beautiful that is, huh? 1931. So it would last for around 60 years. I mean, it is what it is. There's always just kind of one is like some stadiums are able to be saved, like Wrigley Field, Fenway Park, some of them, and some of them just deteriorate away and need to get knocked down. The stadium was built for football as well for the Indians, too, who played their first game there on July 31st, 1932, after losing to the Philadelphia Athletics. Here we go. It's a Cleveland Stadium in the skyline in the 1940s. Of course, that's like a postcard. It's not an actual picture. View of center field in 1993. Lake Erie is visible just outside the stadium. Of course, a lot of people call this the mistake by the lake. Well, I tell you what, when it got windy there, or it's being right by the lake there, boy. I'll tell you what, man, a lot of things there about the Indians. But the Cleveland Browns, originally members of the All-American Football Conference, began playing at the facility in 1946 and played there through 1995. So they played there for basically about 50 years. Stadium was the site of the All-American Football Conference Championship games, 46, 48, and 49. And even in 47, they didn't play it there, but the Browns won all 4 of them. Browns joined the NFL in 1950 and hosted the NFL championship games in 50, 52, 54, 64, and 68. Winning the titles in 50, 54, and 64. The first Browns game at the stadium was also the first All-American Football Conference game when the Browns hosted the Miami Seahawks. There you go, right? On September 6, 1946. Now, it's just weird to hear names like that. You got like this, the Seahawks. Huh? Miami, yeah. Well, I mean, in 1925, there was the Kansas City Cowboys. How about those Cowboys, right? Not the Dallas Cowboys. So, the Browns won the game 44-0 and drew over 60,000 fans. And it wasn't even an NFL game. So, during the 80s, the center field bleachers at the east end of the stadium were home to many of the club's most avid fans and became known as the Dog Pound after the barks that fans made to disrupt opposing teams' offensive plays. We got it. Of course, you got the stadium was also the site of 2 notable moments in Cleveland sports and Browns history. Of course, the 80 divisional playoff game, Red Right 88, where they lost to the Raiders. Now they were in. The thing was is that they were in field goal range. The problem was that the weather was windy. It was so cold. The Browns missed their 2 extra points. So they couldn't even kick an extra point. And it wasn't back where it is now. I mean, the extra points were the ball was being snapped from, I guess, like the 2-yard line. So they snapped it back to about the 10-yard line, whatever, the 9 or the 10. And that was Cockcroft was the kicker. But he missed 2 extra points. So for them to try to think that they could kick a field goal from around the 20-yard line or something, it would have been like a 30-something yard field goal. They couldn't even make a 20-yard extra point. They're going to kick a 30-something yard field goal. So that's why one of the biggest reasons, I guess, they went for the touchdown, went to throw in the end zone and all that. So then, of course, there was the 86 championship game where John Elway led the Broncos as the Drive. A couple unbelievable games. The week before that, the Browns beat the Jets in overtime. The Browns were down, I think, 20-10 with like 5 minutes to go. They scored 10 points in the first, 55 minutes of the game. 10 points. They scored 10 points in the final 5 minutes of the game to tie it up, send it in overtime, and they would wind up winning 23-20. Football Indians and the Rams, the Cleveland Indians, right? Prior to the arrival of the Browns, the stadium was briefly the home field to 2 other NFL teams, the Cleveland Indians in 31 and the Cleveland Rams from 36 to 37 and again from 39 to 41. The Football Indians played 2 home games there in 31. The team drew a crowd of only around 2,000 spectators for the September 26th game against Brooklyn and 10,000 for the loss to the Cardinals. The Rams were founded in 36 as members of the Second American Football League. The first American Football League was in 1926. Red Grange and his C.C. Powell, Cash and Carry Powell, as some people call him, were the founders of that. They're founders, the owners, they were judge, jury, of the American football, the first American Football League, 1926. The Rams, they played their home games at the stadium the first 2 seasons before moving to a smaller Shaw Stadium in 38. The Rams returned to the stadium in 39, played home games there through 41 before moving to League Park for the remainder of their time in Cleveland. The team returned to the stadium one last time to host a 45 NFL championship game, a 15-14 win in what was the Rams' final game in Cleveland before the team relocated to Los Angeles. That was the Sammy Baugh game. It was either, I can't remember, either hit the crossbar or the uprights. It was in the end zone, the 45 championship game. I'm talking about the 15-14. In the end zone, he's trying to throw a pass out of his own end zone. He either hit the crossbar or the uprights. The ball hit and they bounded into the end zone, which at that was would be a safety. They gave the Rams 2 points. And if you see on the screen here, the Rams won 15-14. They won by 1 point. So that's always tough to say. But those 2 points from Sammy Baugh's incompletion that wound up causing a safety really, really helped the outcome of the game. So, all right. So that's Cleveland State. Got some pictures here for you. That's what do we got here? Show you some pictures here. Share the screen. Pictures. Cleveland Browns at the Cleveland Stadium. Here we go. All right. Now there it is, right there. All right, so you got the Lake Erie here, and you got right here. So I mean, if you got some wind coming, blowing right in here. All right. I'm not exactly sure which way the wind was always blowing, but. All right, here we go. So we got here we go. Here's a nice picture of it right here. Municipal Stadium. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Once again, just a shame. Here's a program from this particular year. 1959. November 29th, the Browns versus the 49ers. I mean, those programs are just, I mean, here's another one. Browns played the Eagles, 1959. I mean, the programs are just unbelievable. Crazy. What we got here? A couple people. Then, of course, the man, the myth, the legend. You don't want this guy in open space. God, try to tackle him. I mean, look at this. I mean, just trying to, right? God bless you. Try to tackle that dude. Oh my goodness. What else we got here? Here we go. Here's Graham. Well, this wasn't, I don't know if this is his final season in 55 or what, but this is 38-14. Yep. That was his final game ever. So this was in Cleveland Stadium. This was a 55 championship game. What else we got here? Dun, dun, dun. Here's a nice color picture. There's 177,737 Cleveland Browns Stadium photos and high resolution. I guess Getty Images has over 177,000 pictures of Cleveland Stadium. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. There we go. Championship game. They hosted this one in Cleveland Stadium. This is the Browns would win 30-28 in the final last-second field goal. Some people say the ball went outside the uprights, but the referee said it was good. So pretty much only. Here we go. Beautiful. Look at the beautiful shot. What a this place is just packed. Right. And you can see obviously the infield here and all, but you see it's lined up for a football game. Here's a more modern shot. Oh, there's the final game ever. Very, very sad. Very, very sad. Just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful stadium. You know what I mean? I mean, the fan, you know, it just, once again, it's one of those things is that, you know, I mean, the Browns have been in Cleveland for 50 years. The fans love them. The fans showed up, the passion, all of that stuff and everything. You're going to just take them away and put them in another city. I can't stand Orlando. But, you know, it is what it is. It couldn't be saved. Now, what else was there? Lakefront memory from Cleveland sports. I don't. Lord knows what game this is. But just once again, an absolutely beautiful, beautiful stadium. Unfortunately, you know, time don't stand still, and if you don't, I guess, keep up with it, very, very sadly. I mean, as I said, just with the Indians, and I mean, growing up when I was a kid, the 70s, the 80s, and into the 90s. Anytime I saw the Indians on TV at home, I was in that stadium. Anytime you saw the Browns, were good through the 70s, or good through the 80s, a lot of good teams. And there was played in that stadium. Boy, All right, so let's get a little bit of pregame action here. Now, this is one of those games, quite often just doing these videos and all, a lot of, especially the exhibition game. Sometimes there wasn't the most elite coverage on the games. There was obviously a little bit of, talk about the game beforehand and everything like that. But sometimes after the games were over, the coverage just was not elite, if you know what I mean. So I got a lot of little small articles here. So first we'll talk about, what are we going to talk about? We're going to go to the Call and Post. Okay. September 19th, 1959 edition of the Call and Post. What do you got to say about this game? This is all pregame action. A little pregame action here. All right, here we go. All right. Jim Brown and Bob. My goodness. What a you freaking kidding me. These two guys in the backfield. You can't let either one of them. Jimmy Brown can run you over and then outrun you. Bobby Mitchell can't. But if Bobby Mitchell gets in the open, God help you trying to catch that dude. What a backfield these guys had. Unfreaking believable. Jim Brown and Mitchell carry the Browns' hopes. Now that the Cleveland Indians have apparently failed in a gallant bid for baseball fame, the attention of the sports fans will be on the 1959 edition of the Cleveland Browns. Although there are several new faces in the cast of what the grid producers call the greatest football show on earth, the current edition of the Browns will strongly resemble last year's team when it makes its annual preseason appearance at Municipal Stadium Saturday night. This was their first game. Their only appearance in Cleveland Stadium during the exhibition season. And the Chicago Bears will provide the opposition. The offensive hopes will again be centered on Jim Brown. And I'll tell you what, it's unbelievable. It's almost like almost every game. You're reading, you going over the game, you're reading the articles and stuff. Yeah, Jim Brown broke off a 70-yard run. It's like almost every game. It's unbelievable. Hard-running fullback and Bobby Mitchell, Mercury-tipped speedster at halfback. It is upon these two men who cut some spectacular capers on the grid Greensward last fall in the Browns' early season spurt that Coach Paul Brown is building his offense. Sunday in Detroit, the Browns came within 2 minutes of shattering the Briggs Stadium jinx. The hoodoo has kept the Browns from winning a single game on the Motor City sod in 10 appearances. Browns, after sporting an 11-point lead with less than 2 minutes to play, lost the contest 31-28. Coach Brown, who shrugs off preseason victories, observed that losing to Detroit 31-28 wasn't exactly what I want, but exhibition games don't win championships. The Willie coach said that the rookies got a lesson in that they found out that a game is never over before the final whistle blows. Yep. And handing out praise, the coach is pleased with John Wooten, 248-pound tackle. He has got tremendous speed for a big man and should be a fine player, stated Brown. Bob Tasic got a good mention from Coach Brown, who hinted that the former Michigan State star might be the big back we are looking for to play behind Mitchell. Sensational was Brown's word for Jim Brown and Mitchell. Mitchell scored twice, while Brown tallied once. The fourth was scored by Ed Modulewski. Browns came on a 42-yard burst, while Mitchell went 40 yards for one and 3 yards for the other. Mitchell also turned in a 95-yard kickoff return sprint. Winning accolades from the coach were Milt Plum, the erratic quarterback, and Frank Clark, the sophomore end. He is our best, and I believe that he will cut it, was Brown's observation about Plum. As for Clark, he has the potential and speed to be a terrific end. All he needed to do was to get mean and tough. He has gotten so, and he seems ready. remarked the coach. It appeared Monday morning that Brown was disappointed in Leroy Bolden, the diminutive scatback from Michigan State. Bolden fumbled twice Sunday. The coach expressed sympathy at the first fumble, but steaming over the second, which cost the Browns the game. Oh, and by the way, somewhere going, what the heck was it? So, I mean, they lost a couple fumbles but the Browns didn't fumble hardly at all. I think they lost going into the final game. They played beat the Eagles. I think they lost 4 fumbles after 11. I don't know if they lost any fumbles, but I mean, the whole season they only lost like 4 fumbles in 11 games. I wonder if the little fellow can take the shock of hard tackling by the big men. He isn't hurt physically, but the impact forces him to fumble. Was Brown observation, which indicated that Bolden might not be around when the season opens. This Sunday, the Bears will provide the preseason opposition for the Browns, who have dropped 4 or 5 exhibition contests. The Bears have been torrid on the exhibition trail, having won 4 out of 5 starts. Don't know what they're talking about there because the Bears won every game, so I don't know what they're talking about. Willie Gallimore, who in 2 previous preseason games with the Browns ran the Browns defense like it wasn't there, is one of the headliners of the Bears machine. Good? Okay. All right, next, let's go here to the Plain Dealer, September 19th, 1959 edition of the Plain Dealer, which is an Ohio paper. Was not a plethora of stuff coming from Illinois, meaning Chicago coverage. Because once again, this is just preseason, So it says a lot of preseason, some of the games were not, widely covered. Browns will play for keeps tonight. Time to get up steam, Paul tells Touchdown Club as unbeaten Bears invade. An intriguing football season is coming up for the Cleveland Browns. That opinion was expressed by Paul Brown yesterday at the Touchdown Club's annual kickoff luncheon at the Carter Hotel. I believe that a real intriguing season is facing the coaching staff and players, the coach and general manager told an audience of almost 800. We haven't done so well in the exhibition season, but we've been trying out things. We have hopes of doing better. If we don't, you'll be looking at one disappointed guy. Says Bears always come along fast. With the Chicago Bears paying the stadium a visit tonight at 8:30 for an exhibition, Brown believes the pieces had best start falling into place right away. We had better get a head of steam up or be prepared to take a whacking, the coach declared. The Bears always come along fast, and they are a good football team. It's time we began to get up some momentum. Anyway, the season is only a week away. Brown had high praise for Jim Brown and Bobby Mitchell, as well as Mill Plum, who has won the quarterback job. We have the fastest, most twinkling pair of runners in captivity, Paul said of Brown-Mitchell duo. In praising Plum, Brown said that he may have been looking for a Superman since the departure of Otto Graham. Yeah, they never quite found another Otto Graham after he retired after the 55 season. Graham made it tough for anyone to follow him, said the coach. Milt took us to a 93 season, which is good enough to win the division title 9 out of 10 times, and I wasn't satisfied. Well, he has taken over again and is doing a fine job. He has learned by looking and thinking. We're riding with him, and we'll see how far he can take us again. Lou Groza, ready for his 14th season, received a big round of applause. The Bears exhibition season champions with a 5-0 record worked out in Chicago yesterday and arrived at Hotel Cleveland last night. They are rated as a strong threat in the Western Division. The Browns' 4-point underdogs have beaten only Los Angeles in 5 games. That is why Brown believes the time has come to get up some momentum. All right, then we got the Chicago Defender, September 19th, 1959 edition of the Chicago Defender. I believe they talk about Jim Brown, I think, in this one here. pop this up here. The Chicago, where's the defender right here? There we are. All right. Browns bank on Jim Brown. Yes, okay. All-Pro fullback title drive key. All-Pro fullback Jimmy Brown will be carrying the bulk of the mail again this season when the Cleveland Browns tried to deliver their 8th division crown in 10 years of National Football League competition. The former Syracuse All-American almost carried Cleveland to the Eastern Division title last season when he paced the league in rushing with a record march of 1,527 yards and 257 carries and tied the touchdown records with 18, and that was in a 12-game schedule. Could you imagine how many touchdowns, rushing touchdowns? So basically, he had 1.5 rushing touchdowns a game. So if he played 5 more games, right? He had well over 12. He would have had well over 2,000 yards. Probably would have broke the record that year, and he would have had another what? 1.5 touchdowns a game. 5 more games, he would have had at least another 7 touchdowns. He would have had 25 touchdowns at that pace. Over 2,000 yards. So 25 touchdowns. Absolutely unbelievable. In the club's first 5 exhibition games this year, Brown, who was used sparingly to allow testing of the rookie crop, accounted for 7 of the 11 Cleveland touchdowns. When the 230-pounder can't run over you, he simply outruns you. It's just unbelievable. There's not many guys. I mean, you got like a Bo Jackson who can maybe barrel you over, right? Makes it tough to get, and then he can just outrun you. Well, that was Jim Brown. But while Brown will remain the primary scoring weapon, there are indications Cleveland will pass more frequently in an effort to achieve a more balanced offense. Quarterback Milt Plum, the former Penn State star, now in his 3rd season in the Pro League, finished 2nd in passing last year, primarily because he threw an average of only 14 aerials per game. Yet he completed 102 of 189 attempts for a total gain of 1,619 yards, 11 touchdowns, and an average gain of 8.46 yards, which is very good. Behind Plum is Jim Nanowski, a second-year pro from Michigan State. Nanowski started only game last season against Detroit, but he completed 8 of 17 passes for an average of 8.82 yards and a total of 139 yards. He gets the ball away fast and gets great distance. But he's been struggling in the preseason. That's why Milt Plum will wind up starting instead of Jim Nanowski. To provide a 1 and 2 receiver team for Plum, Coach Paul Brown acquired veteran and Billy Houghton from Green Bay. Houghton among the top league receivers with a mark of 5,581 yards and 43 touchdowns in 7 seasons with the Packers. That's pretty freaking remarkable considering the Packers were not a very good team at all during the 50s. Until Vince Lombardi came to town. And who will be coupled up with fellow Texas Ray Renfro as the prime pass targets. The offense is rounded out by scat backs Bobby Mitchell and Leroy Bolden, 2 of the fastest players in the NFL. Bolden again will be used as the long shot kickoff return man, while Mitchell will occupy the breakaway halfback spot, which he gained 500 yards last season. The core of the Cleveland defense will be composed of Bob Gain, a 259-pounder at left end, while Willie McClung, 260 pounds at left tackle, Sid Youngelman, 262 pounds at right tackle, Paul Wiggins, 237-pound right end, and Walt Michaels, a 237-pound linebacker. Cleveland's offensive line will again have Art Hunter, 242-pound center, veteran guards Chuck Noll, Jimmy Ray Smith, Gene Hickerson, and tackles Lou Groza and Mike McCormick, along with rookie Francis O'Brien. If the men up front come through, Cleveland, like Jim Brown, probably will go all the way as it has so often in the past. All right, now we got the Call and Post, September 19th, 1959 edition. Another Call and Post. So we got, this one here. Let's just show you. That's all. I'll show you something here real fast here. Whoop. There we go. This is it. There we go. First home game for the Browns during the exhibition season Saturday night. Preseason clash, the Cleveland Browns and the Chicago Bears, the biggest show in football. Tickets, $4.50. Wow. 3.5, $2.50. General admission is $1.50. Students, $1,600 for 50 cents. There you go. All right, now I got a couple more here from the Cleveland News. And then we'll start talking about the game. Huh, what a concept. I share the screen. Let me get it up here. Hope I can get it here somewhere. Here we go. All right. Browns to open up against the Bears tonight. The Browns will play it like the real thing as much as possible tonight as they go against the Chicago Bears at the stadium. Looking forward to the official season opener a week from tonight in Pittsburgh, Brown said, "We're going to put the pieces together." He plans to take a quick look, he said, at some new men such as Bob Tasek as the running halfback and Dick LeBeau, who actually wound up playing for Detroit. Dick LeBeau, who wound up going to the Hall of Fame, was on the Browns roster. They didn't keep him. So he went to Detroit and they kept him, and he did pretty good for himself. But in the main, he plans to play the game with his number ones. Okay. This definitely includes Milt Plum as the quarterback. He's proven he can win. We can win with him. So we'll stick with him, said the coach. He did it last year. He did it in Los Angeles, the exhibition game 2 weeks ago. And so far as Plum was concerned, we won the game in Detroit. Last Sunday, the Browns dissipated a lead of 11 points in the last minute and a half. Wow. Only in these last two games has Plum gone all the way at quarterback. Whether Jim Danowski will get some work tonight, Brown says he doesn't know yet. We'll see how it develops. Speaking to the Touchdown Club at its welcoming luncheon yesterday, a crowd that overflowed the Carter Hotel's Rainbow Room, Brown made it clear Plum is his quarterback for now. I underestimated the value of experience, Brown admitted. Maybe, he said, we've been looking for Superman. Maybe Otto Graham has made it tough for everybody that has followed him. Speaking of the game tonight, Brown warned the squad ranged in front of him. Not quite sure what that means, but we'd better begin to get up and ahead of steam or we'll get thumped. The Bears come in to the stadium unbeaten. George Halas has rotated his 3 quarterbacks in exhibitions, and Rudy Bukic starts tonight. Also, Halas hasn't used over much his powerful Rick Caceres and his slippery runner Willie Gallimore. But with the season only a week off, he probably will go with his full power here. And there are the lineups, the starting offensive lineups, and the remainder of each team. And then we got Browns must overcome their mental errors. Like every team, the Browns now preparing for a preseason final tune-up against the Chicago Bears tomorrow night in the stadium have problems, chief of which is mental. The boys forget, misunderstand, or just fail to adjust. The Browns lost to the Lions in Detroit last Sunday because of a last-minute fumble, but that's part of football. Distressing as a fumble can be. But in this game and previous ones, the team was hurt even more by mental errors. The squad from the start of training has been taking on plays for the offensive repertoire. All require adjustments at the last moment based on the type of blocking call the defense met. It requires thinking, and too much of it hasn't been good. Over and over again, Paul Brown has been emphasizing, know what you are doing. Nevertheless, mistakes happen. Brown has been around too long to expect mistakes will be entirely eliminated. His objective is to find the players who won't make too many. Of course, other teams make mistakes too, and they come both on offense and defense. Film of the game in Detroit showed plenty of mental errors and emphasized how much more a team is hurt on a pass play than on a running play. On a run, there seldom is a big loss, and often the ball carrier by individual effort can overcome the mistake. There was a sequence from the Detroit 5-yard line. Leroy Bolden ran and was stopped without gain. Brown ordered the play done over. This time it was done right, except that Bolden fumbled on the goal line, but until the fumble, the play had been done well. But there were some pass plays that went wrong. Early, Brown said that after studying the film, Milt Plum was caught for a big loss trying to get a pass away. Jim Brown misunderstood the call, went out for the pass instead of staying in to block, and nobody took the defensive end. On another pass play, Brown said Preston Carpenter cut the wrong way, Plum necessarily anticipating the correct move through, and that became an interception. And that's how football games can be lost. Yep. You got that right. All right, so what happened during the game here? So let's go to, oops. All right, we got the Plain Dealer. September 20th, 1959 edition of the Plain Dealer. There we go. All right. Let's see. Browns win in final seconds, 33-31. There you go. Good. Good luck and God bless trying to tackle that dude. Trip bears on Grosser's long boot. Lou hits from 41. Cleveland loses a 30-14 lead. Wow. Lou Grosser gave a familiar but still heart-pounding finish to the Browns' exhibition season last night. The toe booted a 41-yard field goal with only 11 seconds left as Paul Brown's team edged the previously undefeated Chicago Bears 33-31 before 25,316 at the stadium. Lou's kick, which touched off a wild victory dance by the Cleveland players, capped a mighty comeback in the last minute of play. The Browns had rushed off to a 20-0 lead. Then they saw quarterback Ed Brown pick apart the Cleveland secondary, weakened by the absence of Warren Lahr and Jim Schaffner. Bears roll up 17 in the last quarter. Bears rolled up 17 points in the final quarter and went ahead 31-30 with only 1 minute and 10 seconds left to go. It appeared that victory had been snatched away again, as was in Detroit the week before. Things looked even worse when Bobby Mitchell, who had scored touchdowns on bursts of 10 and 17 yards, slipped as he brought the kickoff back to the 20-yard line. The Browns refused to fold, though, and battled in position for Grosser to go to work. It was a blocked extra point that after the first touchdown, which enabled the Bears to go ahead. Plum hits 15 out of 25 passes. Milt Plum, who went the distance at quarterback and completed 15 to 25 for 194 yards, hit Jim Brown on the flare for 7 yards. Jim had opened the scoring with a 70-yard touchdown, John, on the second play from scrimmage. Unbelievable guy. Unbelievable. Preston Carpenter, who caught 6 passes for 118 yards, made 2 big grabs here. He picked off one from Plum, pass for 20 yards to the Cleveland 47. That still wasn't field goal territory, so Plum remained in the air. He tossed to Billy Houghton, but was off the target, and then the throw came close to being intercepted. Then, as the second hand moved around on the clock, Milt hit Carpenter over the middle. Preston, well covered, managed to leap and grab the ball. It was good for 18 yards down to the Bears' 35. So Grosser went to work with Kenny Cones holding on the 41. The Browns can start the regular season next Saturday night against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, fired up by this comeback, but still uncertain about the defense. Lahr went out early limping on a sore knee, and Schaffner received a bump on the head before the end of the half. So Dick LeBeau might want to keep the guy around, but apparently not. Again, got his shot, but found Brown's passing and the receiving of Harlan Hill too much to handle. So he did not have a super spectacular preseason, shall we say, and that's sure why Paul Brown let him go. So Paul Brown will be eyeing that injury list with concern this week. It was the second victory in 6 games for the Browns, who also beat the Rams in Los Angeles. This one started out like a route, too. Jim Brown found a big hole over his own left tackle on the second play from scrimmage. He moved to the first base sideline and ran over J.C. Caroline, a defensive back, on his way to a 70-yard touchdown. Doug Atkins, former member of the Browns, blocked Rose's extra point. The Browns go 63 yards in 6 plays. The defense then contained the Bears, who had Rudy Bukic at the helm, and the Browns offense got another opportunity. This time it was a 63-yard push in 6 plays with, all right, so let's go to the next page of the plain dealer here. Let's say that. Jim Brown on the move. One play after fullback Jim Brown reeled off his 15-yard gain in the first quarter. The Browns scored their second touchdown. Brown gets some help from Ray Renfro, number 26, as the Bears' Charlie Sumner tries for a shoestring tackle. Other Chicago defenders are Erich Barnes and Fred Williams. All right. For the plain dealer here. If I can find my, there we are. There we go. Screen, plain dealer. All right, here we go. All right, now. So let me, hold on there. What do we got? Let me finish. Let me read this here. We got, okay, this time it was a 63-yard push in 6 plays with Mitchell skittering the last 11 yards around end. Cleveland finished the quarter with a 13-0 lead. A second quarter touchdown by Ed Big Mo Modulewski on his Little Mo, his brother Little Mo. Dick Modulewski is a defensive tackle for the New York Giants. Modulewski on a 4-yard plunge post Rose's point hiked the bulge to 20 points, 20-0. That third score was set up by Bernie Parrish. He intercepted one of Ed Brown's passes and fought his way back 27 yards down to the Bears' 10. The Bears, who topped the Giants a week back, got into the scoring act at this point. Lair and Schaffner had moved to the sidelines, and Ed Brown began picking on Dick LeBeau. Oh. Refresh the page here. And by once again, just he started off slow, and I guess, if he was struggling, rookie struggling. I guess Paul Brown didn't want him around, so the Detroit Lions were more than happy to keep him. And when they kept them for many, many years. Dick LeBeau, I'm talking about. Hill gains 58 on a Brown aerial. Hill took a pass on a 58-yard gain for the big play in a 70-yard drive. Jim Dooley, a fine receiver, grabbed a flare pass good for 6 yards and the touchdown. Just before the half ended, Groza got 3 points back with a 2-yard field goal. What? 2-yard field goal. Yeah, that's not right. You don't kick 2-yard field goals. And Cleveland had a 23-7 halftime margin. Let me see if... let's see. Bears, Dooley, Morris, extra points, Groza 3. It was 21-yard field goal. There you go. Just before the half ended, Groza kicked 3 points back with a 21-yard field goal, and Cleveland had a 23-7 halftime margin. Each team scored in the third quarter. The Bears counted on a 2-yard pass from Brown to Johnny Morris. The swift halfback just circled the end on sheer speed. Mitchell swept his own right end for 17 yards and his second touchdown, aided by Jim Ray Smith's sturdy block. Cleveland had a 30-14 lead as the final 15 minutes started, up by 16 points, which back then, it ain't 2 scores. Back then, it was at least 3 scores. Ain't no 2-point conversion back then. That wasn't enough, though, the 16-point lead. As Rick, probably Caceres, and Wooly Gallimore. What a combo. Huh? Plunged 3 years. They plunged 3 years. Wow, that's a big plunge. Let's try how about plunge 3 yards each for touchdowns, and John and Vinny kicked a 17-yard field goal. And you got touchdowns here. Tunch. Wasn't any spell check back then. The rookie also counted for all 4 extra points. The Browns just wouldn't quit, though, and the toe came through again. Jim Brown's 105 yards paced the Cleveland running attack, which counted for 206 yards. Morris, a good halfback from Santa Barbara State, led the Bears with 55. Ed Brown completed 17 of 23. Very impressive passes during the 3 quarters of action. The Bears quarterback fired those 2 touchdown passes, but also had that big one intercepted by Parrish. Bears outgained Cleveland by 11 yards, 411 to 400, making 310 yards throwing the ball. Despite the aerial bombardment, Rose's kick made it a happy exhibition windup and a hopeful outlook for the 1959 season. So there you go. I mean, Browns, I mean, my goodness, look at this. I mean, if I can get, there we go. Here we are, right here. 200 yards rushing, 200 yards passing. I mean, my goodness. The Bears are 100 yards rushing, 300 passing. So. Right, the Bears had 24 first downs, around 20. So, all right, so let's go. What do we got now? We're going to go to the Cleveland Press. September 21st, 1959 edition of the Cleveland Press. What do they got to say about the game? All right. Browns' morale soaring after Grose's field goal. Whoops. Try this again. All right, one more time. There we go. The Browns swing into the 10th National Football League season at Pittsburgh on Saturday night with spirits as high as those whirling satellites. The club's morale, on the verge of being severely shaken for the second straight week, was rocketed into orbit on another clutch kick by Lou Groza before 25,000 fans at the stadium Saturday. The latest in a long list of heroics by the big left tackle beat the burly Chicago Bears 33-31 in the last 11 seconds, and the 41-yard field goal could very well provide a psychological lift similar to the one Groza supplied in the season opener at Los Angeles a year ago. Given impetus by Groza's LA boot, the Browns rolled onto a hairline near miss in the Eastern Division title race. Now the toe has done it again at the perfect time for the important weeks ahead. Paul Brown was most pleased with the balance in his team's offense. We gained 400 yards, and they were almost equally divided between running and passing, Brown observed. That's ideal for balance. That's what we like to have all the time. He also thought Milt Plum did a fine job throwing 15 out of 25 completed. I mean, that's 3 out of every 5. That's 60% completion percentage, which is was exhibition. But 60% completion back then was fantastic. And one pass badly muffed. Plum hit Jim Brown with a flare pass and found Preston Carpenter for 20 and then 18 yards as the Browns moved into field goal position only 59 seconds after the Bears scored what appeared to be the winning touchdown at 13:50 of the last quarter. Carpenter, whose clutch qualities are similar to Groza's, made a leaping grab with 2 Bears on his back to set up the deciding 3-pointer. Babe Dimanchev, scouting for the Steelers, was much impressed with the Browns' offense in the first half. They certainly look a lot better than when they played us, he admitted. Of course, Bobby Mitchell is in there now, and he makes a big difference. The Browns rambled to a 23-7 halftime lead on a 70-yard run by Brown, a 10-yard sprint by Mitchell, a plunge by Ed Modzelewski, and a 21-yard field goal by Groza. The Bears seemed sluggish in the first half until Ed Brown took over at quarterback and began threading the needle. Brown completed 17 of 23 passes. That's basically 3 out of every 4. Very impressive. And engineered 5 consecutive scoring drives, starting late in the second quarter and continuing until the Bears moved ahead. Much of the Browns' pass defense trouble was caused by injuries to right cornerback Jim Schaffner and left safety Warren Lahr in the first half. Rookie Dick LeBeau finished with Schaffner, and in Paul Brown's words, got another lesson, one which very likely will result in his being one of the 2 players to be released late today. And that's what happened. They got him released, and he went to Detroit, and They were more than happy to take him. Schaffner received a blow on the head, but is ready to play again. Laird, too, is expected to return to his post after suffering a twisted knee. He was replaced by Ken Cones. The Browns worked on defensive halfback Richie Pettibone, rookie from Tulane, the same way the Bears worked on LeBeau. Both backs were vulnerable on passes. They said Richie Pettibone, he was a quarterback coming out of college, and they made him a defensive halfback. Fran O'Brien went all the way at offensive right tackle for Cleveland, and the rookie will start against Pittsburgh unless the game films reveal mistakes not apparent to Brown during the game. A medical verdict was expected today on whether Mike McCormack is ready to resume work. All right, now what do we got here? Let's go to the Blade, September 20th, 1959 edition of The Blade. Browns up. Is this, whoops. Let me, this is Eastern Kentucky. I wasn't sure. I'm trying to see who, Eastern Kentucky. There you go, huh? All right. Browns upset Bears 33-31 in final seconds. Chicago Bears missed an undefeated exhibition season by exactly 11 seconds tonight. That's how much time was left when Lou Groza kicked a 41-yard field goal to give the Cleveland Browns a 33-31 victory over the Bears. The feat gave Cleveland a 2-4 exhibition season record, while the Bears are now 5-1. Years ago, Big Lou's kick would have been considered routine, but not tonight. 3 times Groza placement attempts were blocked. Once it cost the Browns a point after touchdown, and another time it helped set up the touchdown that put Chicago out in front. As it was, the ball left the ground just a split second before Chicago's end broke in to cover Groza's toe. It was reliable Preston Carpenter who got the ball into kicking position for the Browns, taking an 18-yard pass from Mill Plum and setting it down so that Groza had a reasonably good angle. For a minute, it appeared that this game would be a repetition of last week's Cleveland-Detroit game when the Lions scored with slightly more than a minute to go to win 31-28. The Bears went in front for the first time with 1 minute 10 remaining as Willie Gallimore went up the middle for 3 yards to end a 58-yard drive. John Aveni's placement made the score 31-30. Shortly after, Aveni had kicked a 17-yard field goal to make the score 30-24, and early in the fourth quarter, the Bears drove 80 yards to make it 30-21. In a sense, the Bears spotted Cleveland one offensive quarter. When Rudy Bukic at quarterback for the first quarter, the Chicagoans were unable to move the ball. When veteran Ed Brown came in, however, the Bears became tough. The tough offensive team they were advertised to be. Brown would complete 17 of 23 passes with 287 yards and 2 touchdowns in 3 quarters. Plum went all the way for Cleveland and hit 15 of 25 pass attempts for 194 yards. Carpenter was the number 1 receiver with 6 catches for 118 yards. The Browns' offense asserted itself in a hurry. On the first play, Mill Plum hit Ray Renfro with a 10-yard first down pass on the 30. And on the second play, Jim Brown went up the middle, cut for the sidelines, and didn't stop until 70 yards later in the end zone. J.C. Caroline, famed Illinois speedster, got a good crack at Brown but couldn't hold him. Charlie Sumner, waiting for the runner near the goal line, didn't have a chance. The Browns exploded again the second time they got the ball. Plum passed to Preston Carpenter for a 31-yard pass to the Bears' 15. Brown broke away to the 20, and the officials added 10 more yards on a penalty, putting the ball on the Bear 10. So I don't know what this means here. Plum passed to Preston Carpenter for 31. Where are we at here? 31 down to the Bears' 15. How can Brown break away down? If they're at the 15, how could he break away down to the 2? I don't understand that. And then the officials added 10 more yards on the penalty, putting the ball in the Bear 10. But aided by a key block by Ray Smith, Bobby Mitchell went wide for the score. Groza, whose first point after touchdown attempt was blocked, made the second. The Browns ran into minor difficulties when Groza's field goal attempt from the 45 was blocked, and Chicago took over on the 35. Shortly afterward, Bernie Parrish intercepted a Bear passed on the 37 and battled back to the 10 before being stopped. 3 plays later, Ed Modulewski went over from the 3, and Groza kicked another point. The Bears' first half touchdown came late in the second quarter on a 68-yard drive, which included a 58-yard pass play from Ed Brown to Harlan Hill. The scoring play was a 6-yard pass in which Dooley faked out Parrish beautifully before taking a lateral pass from Ed Brown and stepping over the goal line. Lou Groza made the score 23-20 with 10 seconds remaining in the half with a 21-yard field goal. Teams exchanged touchdowns in the third quarter. The Bears drove 80 yards, and the Browns went 73 on the next series. A pair of Brown to Hill passes ate up the big yardage on the Bears' drive, and little Johnny Morris did the scoring from the 2. A short pass from Brown freed Morris far out on the flank, and Morris outraced Parrish for the score. All right, now we got 2 more here for you. We got the Cincinnati Enquirer, September 20th, 1959 edition of the Cincinnati Enquirer. All right, what do they got to say here? Just a bunch of small articles here to kind of go over the game. Chicago Bears still bear label as monsters of the Midway. Chicago Bears once again rate their old name, Monsters of the Midway. They're not only monsters, but apparently talented as well, if their successes on pro football's exhibition circuit are any indication. I've never seen them so big or so fast, candidly admitted coach Jim Lee Howe of the Giants, after the Bears had smothered his club in an 18-6 exhibition for their 5th straight warm-up victory. Starting modestly with 3-point winners over the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles, the Monsters gathered steam, piling it up on the Steelers 54-17 and the Redskins 52-14 before tangling with the Giants. The Bears is the type of team to gladden the heart of the old jewel master owner coach George Halas in his 40th season of professional football. They're big, rough, and highly efficient in nearly every phase of the game. In their 2 television shots piped in New York this year, there seemed little to a question about the 59 Bears, except perhaps with the forward pass. Quarterbacks Eddie Brown. Try this again here. Quarterbacks Eddie Brown, Zeke Bratkowski, and Rudy Bukic aren't exactly models of consistency, and if anything prevents Halas from celebrating his 40th anniversary with another league championship, it could be the lack of a take-charge clutch man on the passing end. However, receivers Harlan Hill and Jim Dooley, who were lost for a considerable chunk of last season, are back in shape, and that's a tremendous lift for the quarterback brigade. His Bears won all their exhibitions last year, 2, but blew the Western Conference Championship largely through a total of inability to handle the champion Baltimore Colts on 2 tries. Of course, we should be better this year, Halas admits cautiously, but like last year or any year, you can't be sure how much the other teams have improved. On the ground, the Bears are murdered with Rick Caceres and Willie Gallimore operating in a new Halas gimmick to make the defenses more vulnerable, he hopes, to a running attack. Behind Caceres at fullback is Merrill Douglas, a tough cookie in his second year, and during exhibitions, the 235-pounder named Johnny Adams from Los Angeles State looked like a fullback find for the future. But they don't play much football on the ground in the pro league, and their payoff is up in the air. If one way or another Halas brings off another championship, it couldn't happen to a more remarkable character. At 65, he still is loaded with energy, ideas, and a lot more fight than a guy his age is entitled to possess. Pro football is a rough business, and George is a rough businessman. All right, I got one more here for you. We got the Akron Beacon Journal. Oh, yeah? That's the main paper for the Akron Pros, especially like doing the 1925 season. The Akron Beacon Journal that's the one for the Akron Pros. They do a very good job covering the Akron Pros. But that's 1925. This is 1959. So what does the Akron Beacon Journal got to say about this game here? Well, let's find out. All right. Groza's field goal beats Bears, 33-31. What we got here? Nope. That's not this game either. Sometimes I get. All right. Is this? Nope, that's not this game either. That's LSU, I do believe, right? Is that LSU? Yep. That's Rice and LSU. There you go. All right. There we go. Groza's field goal beats the Bears 33-31. Lou Groza did it again. His toe provided the Browns with a 33-31 victory over the Chicago Bears in the final exhibition game of the season before approximately 30,000 at Lakefront Stadium Saturday night. The Bears had been undefeated in exhibition games this season, while the Browns had won only one of 5 contests. They were 1-4. They had won. They didn't win 1 of 4. They were 1-4. So after this, now they're 2-4. But Cleveland blew a 23-7 halftime lead and had the call on Groza to bag the victory. The Browns were trailing by 31-30 with a minute 20 left in the game. They got to their own 42 with 25 seconds left. Milt Plum then passed to Preston Carpenter, who put the ball on the 35. And with time running out, Groza booted a field goal from the 41-yard stripe. Browns scored 13 points in the first quarter and 10 in the second. Chicago scored once in the second period. On the second play from scrimmage, fullback Jimmy Brown went up the middle for a 70-yard touchdown run. The try for extra point was blocked by Everett Barnes. The next time the Browns had the ball, they scored again. A third down pass from Milt Plum to Preston Carpenter. A 15-yard, looks like 15-yard, maybe 13-yard run by Brown, and a penalty of half the distance to the goal line took the ball to the 10. Halfback Bobby Mitchell scored on a wide sweep to the right. Early in the second quarter, linebacker Walt Michaels recovered a fumble as Rudy Bukic tried to pass, and this was followed by a 42-yard field goal attempt by Groza. The kick was blocked. Chicago put Ed Brown in quarterback, and his second try for a pass was intercepted by the rookie defensive back Bernie Parrish, who returned to the Chicago 10. On the second play, fullback Ed Modzelewski scored on a 4-yard power play through the middle. Chicago tallied in the second period on an 8-yard pass from Brown to Jim Dooley. It was set up by a 58-yard pass and run play by Brown to end Harlan Hill. Seconds before the half ended, Groza connected for a field goal from the 20, and the other article said he connected from the 21. So the play following a pass from Plum to rookie Bob Tasic, a roughing the penalty, put the ball on the 13. Each team got a touchdown in the third quarter. Then Ed Brown, who hit on 16 of 22 pass attempts for 295 yards, while he also, in the other articles, he hit, I think it was 17 out of 23 passes. So, but Brown engineered 2 touchdowns, and the Bears got a field goal for a 31-30 lead in the fourth stanza. All right. So, but you'll notice, I mean, you got this, right? But then again, this is Akron. This is, so they got the stats. They don't have the stats for a pro football game, but this is the Akron Beacon Journal, and they have the Akron. I guess that might be Mount Vernon, maybe. They got the stats for those, So once again, it's all, it's all exhibition, and I found that quite a bit. Some teams really get covered really, really well, regardless of the fact. But other teams, I mean, once again, it's exhibition. And the one thing is that, especially back then, college football was it's still huge, right? But college football's always been huge. So that was huge. But you got, when this exhibition season is going on in August and September, the baseball season is on. So you got baseball going on, you got college football going on. So the pro football exhibition season kind of takes a little bit, step back. It goes into the shadows a little bit. So the coverage isn't always there. But usually, especially, after the 58 championship game, that's when, pro football, started coming to the forefront a little bit more, got more popular. So at least the regular season games do get covered. But there really weren't many. I mean, like the Chicago Tribune, I'm looking through there, like, what happened during the game? I'm looking at the Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Bears, and you cover the Chicago Bears exhibition. What happened? So very, very disappointing. But once again, this was just an exhibition game, but wound up being a very, very good one. But for both these teams, successful seasons, but a little disappointing. The Browns, they were 6-2 and they lost 3 of their final 4, and they were out of first place by 3 games. And for the Bears, a fantastic season. I mean, exhibition, they were 5-1. They finished the final 7 games of the season, and they stumbled out of the blocks, going 1-4. And it just goes to show you, in a 12-game season, you lose 4 of your first 5 games. That almost kind of like eliminates you from any competition. Although the Colts did have to win, I think, their final 5 games of the season to finish at 9-3, and the Bears finished at 8-4. But once again, it was just exhibition. And both teams, as always, with George Halas and Paul Brown, once again, successful seasons, as always. So that's the way it was on this date, September 19th, 1959, as the Chicago Bears went to play the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland Stadium. Pro football, first 50 years. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.